Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real tonight. One of the biggest mistakes people make on their road to success is talking too much about what they're about to do. You announce your plans, you broadcast your dreams, you explain your vision to people who don't even understand themselves yet. And then you wonder why things fall apart. See, there is power in moving in silence. There is strength in keeping your mouth closed and your work loud. I learned this the hard way. When you tell people what you're about to do, you give them permission to comment on something God only showed to you. Everybody doesn't have your vision. Everybody can't see what you see. Some people will clap for you, but many will question you, doubt you, or secretly hope you fail, not because you're wrong, but because your dream makes them uncomfortable with their own life. Silence protects you from all of that. When you move in silence, you don't need validation. You don't need approval. You don't need applause before the performance. You wake up early, you stay focused, you work when nobody is watching, and you build when nobody is clapping. That's how confidence is formed. Not from talking, but from doing. Not from explaining, but from executing. See, some people talk so much that they release their energy before they ever release results. They get excited just by telling people what they plan to do. But excitement without discipline will leave you stuck. Silence forces you to discipline yourself. Silence keeps you accountable to yourself and to God, not to people's opinions. Let me tell you something else. Not everyone who listens to you is rooting for you. Some people are just gathering information. Some people smile in your face but plant doubt behind your back. When you move in silence, you starve negativity. You don't give your enemies a blueprint. You don't give doubters a timeline. You just show up one day with results. And they didn't even see it coming. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about something most people don't understand, and that is the power of protecting your vision by moving in silence. See, when God gives you a dream, He doesn't give it to a committee. He gives it to you. That vision is personal. It's fragile in the beginning. It's like a seed, and if you expose a seed too early, it can be destroyed before it ever has a chance to grow. That's why you don't need to tell everybody what you're working on. Everybody does not need access to your dreams. You see, the moment you start talking, you invite opinions. And opinions are dangerous when you're building something new. Some people will tell you it's impossible. Some will remind you of your past. Some will project their own fears onto your future. And none of that helps you move forward. Negativity has a way of sneaking into your spirit when you least expect it, and once it's there, it can slow you down, confuse you, or even stop you altogether. Silence protects you from that noise. I've learned that people don't always doubt you because your idea is bad. Sometimes they doubt you because they can't imagine themselves doing it. They measure your dream with their limitations. They look at your vision through their fear. And if you listen long enough, you'll start to question what God already confirmed. That's why silence is not weakness. Silence is discipline. Silence is confidence. Silence is saying, I know what I saw, and I don't need you to see it yet. When you move in silence, you get to focus. You wake up with clarity. You stop explaining and start executing. You don't waste energy defending your goals or justifying your journey. All that energy goes into the work. And let me tell you something, focus is expensive. It costs you distractions. It costs you comfort. It costs you validation. But the reward for focus is progress, and progress doesn't need an announcement. A lot of people sabotage themselves by talking too soon. They announce a goal before they build the habits. They share the vision before they develop the discipline. Then, when it gets hard, and it will get hard, they feel pressure, shame, or embarrassment. But when you move in silence, your struggles are private. Your growth is personal. Your mistakes become lessons instead of public failures. You get the freedom to fall, get back up, and keep going without anybody counting you out. Silence also builds inner strength. When nobody knows what you're doing, you can't rely on applause. You can't depend on encouragement. You learn how to motivate yourself. You learn how to trust God when there's no evidence yet. That's when real faith shows up. Faith is not believing when everybody is cheering. Faith is believing when nobody knows what you're doing and nothing around you looks like success. Let me tell you this clearly, Not everybody who asks about your plans wants to support you. Some people are just curious. Some people are fishing for information. Some people are waiting to see if you fail so they can say, "I knew it." Silence takes their power away. You don't give them a front row seat to your process. You let them see the finished product. When you protect your vision, you give it time to mature. You give yourself space to grow into the person that dream requires. Because listen to me, God doesn't just prepare the blessing, He prepares the person. And preparation happens best in quiet places, not in loud conversations. One day, when the results show up, people will ask how you did it. They'll say you're lucky. They'll say you came out of nowhere. But you'll know the truth. You were building while they were talking. You were growing while they were watching. You were moving in silence. And that silence protected everything God placed inside you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I had to learn through pain, patience, and experience. Not everybody deserves to know your plans. Just because someone can listen doesn't mean they should hear what God is doing in your life. See, when you tell people what you're about to do, you give them a chance to influence it. And most people don't even realize how powerful their words can be. One careless comment, one doubtful laugh, one sarcastic question can sit in your spirit longer than 100 compliments. That's why moving in silence is not about secrecy, it's about self-preservation. People often ask, "Why didn't you tell me?" The truth is, some people only know how to support results, not process. They can clap when you win, but they don't know how to stand with you when you're building. They don't understand the nights you stay up late, the mornings you wake up tired, the sacrifices you make that don't make sense yet. When you talk too early, they judge the process instead of respecting it. Silence gives you space to become. Before the blessing shows up, you have to grow into the person who can handle it. That growth period is uncomfortable. You're changing habits, shifting mindsets, letting go of old versions of yourself. And when you announce your plans too soon, people expect instant results. They don't give you room to evolve. Silence gives you that room. It allows you to stretch, to fail to learn, and to mature without an audience. Let me tell you something else that's real talking too much can make you lazy. When you keep telling people what you're going to do, you start feeling accomplished before you've done anything. You get praise for intention instead of results. And intention doesn't change your life. Execution does. Silence keeps you hungry. It keeps you working. Because the only way people will ever know what you've been doing is when they see it. A lot of people want to be seen working, but successful people work to be seen. There's a difference. When you move in silence, you stop chasing attention and start chasing excellence. You don't post every step. You don't announce every move. You let consistency build your confidence. And confidence that comes from consistency is unshakable. You also have to understand that some people are comfortable with you as long as you stay the same. The moment you share a bigger vision, it threatens the version of you they're used to. They may not mean harm, but their comfort with your old self can become resistance to your new self. Silence protects you from that resistance. It allows you to outgrow environments without arguments, without explanations, without drama. There's also spiritual power in silence. Sometimes God needs you quiet so He can work. Noise creates confusion. Stillness creates clarity. When you're silent, you hear better. You hear instructions. You hear warnings. You hear direction. But when you're busy talking, explaining, and convincing, you miss what God is trying to tell you next. Moving in silence teaches patience. It teaches humility. It teaches trust. You learn to trust the process even when there's no evidence yet. You learn to trust yourself even when nobody is cheering. And that kind of trust changes you from the inside out. One day people will notice the change. They'll see the growth. They'll see the success. And they'll ask, "When did this happen?" And the answer will be simple: while you were quiet, while you were focused, while you were doing the work instead of talking about it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak to you about something that separates people who only dream from people who actually become. It's understanding that your journey does not require an audience. Too many people feel obligated to explain their moves, justify their choices, and announce their next step before they even take it. But growth happens best when it's private, When you move in silence, you remove pressure, distraction, and unnecessary expectations from your life. See, when you tell people what you're doing, they start watching you. And when people watch you, they start measuring your progress by their timeline. They ask questions like, "Why isn't it done yet?" Or, "I thought you said you were going to be here by now." But they don't know the process. They don't know the delays. They don't know the lessons you had to learn along the way. Silence frees you from other people's clocks and allows you to move at the pace required for real growth. A lot of pressure in life comes from trying to live up to what we told people instead of what we're actually called to do. You change your mind, you adjust the plan, you take a different route, and suddenly you feel like you owe somebody an explanation. But when you move in silence, you give yourself permission to pivot. You give yourself permission to learn. You give yourself permission to evolve without guilt. Silence gives you flexibility, and flexibility is essential for success. There's also something powerful about being underestimated. When people don't know what you're working on, they don't see you coming. They don't prepare for your rise. They don't expect your growth, and that can work in your favor. See, when expectations are low, you have room to build without interference. You're not distracted by comparisons. You're not influenced by competition. You're locked in on your own lane. Silence also helps you develop emotional strength. When nobody knows your plan, you can't lean on encouragement to keep you going. You have to develop inner drive. You have to build resilience. You have to learn how to push yourself even when you're tired, discouraged, or unsure. That kind of strength doesn't come from applause. It comes from discipline. And discipline grows best in quiet environments. Let me tell you something else that's important. Talking too much exposes you to unnecessary criticism. People criticize what they don't understand, and most people don't understand the early stages of growth. They only respect the finished product. Silence protects you from premature judgment. It allows your work to mature before it's evaluated. It lets you show up with results instead of excuses. When you move in silence, you also learn to listen more. You become more observant. You notice opportunities other people miss because they're too busy talking. You start picking up on patterns, lessons, and warnings. Silence sharpens your awareness. It helps you make better decisions because you're not reacting to noise, you're responding to insight. Another thing silence teaches you is self-trust. When you stop asking everybody for advice, you start listening to your own intuition. You start trusting the wisdom God placed inside you. That doesn't mean you never seek counsel, but it means you're selective. You stop taking directions from people who aren't going where you want to go. Silence helps you protect your direction. There's a season where your life looks quiet on the outside, but busy on the inside. People think nothing is happening, but everything is happening. Roots are growing. Foundations are being laid. Character is being developed. And when the time comes for growth to show, it shows fast. What people call an overnight success is usually years of silent preparation. So understand this. You don't owe anyone a preview of your destiny. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need validation to move forward. Sometimes the smartest move you can make is to stay quiet, stay focused, and let the work introduce you when the time is right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share something with you that can save you years of frustration. The loudest people are rarely the most productive. Real progress is usually quiet. When you are truly working on something meaningful, you don't have time to explain it to everybody. You're too busy learning, adjusting, failing, and trying again. Moving in silence keeps you connected to the work instead of the noise that surrounds it. One of the biggest dangers of talking too much about your plans is that it invites comparison. The moment you share what you're doing, somebody will tell you how someone else did it faster, cheaper, or better. And if you're not careful, you'll start measuring your journey against theirs. Comparison steals joy. It steals focus. It steals confidence. Silence protects you from comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. When you move quietly, you stop trying to impress people. You start trying to improve yourself. That shift changes everything. You're no longer chasing attention or approval. You're chasing growth. And growth requires honesty with yourself. In silence, you can admit what you don't know. You can acknowledge your weaknesses. You can work on them without feeling exposed or judged. That's how real development happens. There's also a powerful lesson in humility that silence teaches. When nobody knows what you're building, you stay grounded. You don't feel entitled. You don't feel superior. You just feel responsible. Responsible to show up. Responsible to do the work. Responsible to stay consistent. Humility keeps you teachable, and teachable people grow faster than arrogant ones. Silence also strengthens your commitment. When you announce your plans publicly, it's easy to quit quietly. But when you commit privately, quitting feels personal. You know what you promised yourself. You know what you prayed for. That private commitment becomes sacred. You don't break it easily. You push through tough days because nobody else can hold you accountable the way you can. Let me tell you something about distractions. Distractions love noise. The more you talk, the more invitations you get. The more opinions you hear. The more directions you're pulled in. Silence reduces distractions. It simplifies your life. It allows you to say no without explaining yourself. It allows you to protect your time and energy, which are two of your most valuable assets. When you're quiet, you also learn patience. You stop rushing results just to prove something to somebody. You understand that some things take time. You stop forcing doors and start preparing for opportunities. Patience is not passive. Patience is active trust. It's working every day even when nothing seems to be changing yet. Another truth about silence is that it prepares you for responsibility. Success without preparation can destroy you. Money without maturity can break you. Influence without character can expose you. Silence gives you time to build character before the spotlight shows up. It shapes you in private so you don't fall apart in public. People often say, you came out of nowhere. But the truth is, nobody comes out of nowhere. They come out of quiet seasons. Seasons where they were overlooked, underestimated, and unseen. Seasons where they chose discipline over drama and focus over fame. Silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything important is happening beneath the surface. So if your life feels quiet right now, don't panic. If people don't understand your moves, don't explain. If nobody is clapping yet, keep working. The quiet season is not a punishment, it's preparation. And when the time is right, what you built in silence will speak louder than anything you could have ever said. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about something that can change the way you move through life. And that is learning how to keep your wins, your plans, and your progress private until the right moment. Everybody doesn't need a front row seat to your growth. Some people only know how to celebrate you after you've arrived, not while you're becoming. And that's okay. That's why moving in silence is not about hiding, it's about timing. When you tell people what you're working on, you open the door to opinions you didn't ask for. People will suggest changes, shortcuts, or doubts, and before you know it, your original vision gets blurred. Silence keeps the vision clear. It keeps it pure. You stay aligned with why you started instead of being pulled in 10 different directions by outside voices. Silence also protects your emotional energy. Every conversation costs something. Every explanation drains something. When you're building something big, you need all your energy focused in one direction. Explaining your goals over and over again can exhaust you before the real work even begins. Quiet people conserve their energy. They invest it into action instead of conversation. Let me tell you something, real success attracts jealousy long before it attracts support. When people hear about your plans, some of them won't pray for you, they'll compete with you. Some won't encourage you, they'll question you. Silence avoids unnecessary competition. It allows you to build without feeling watched, copied, or rushed. You stay in your own lane, running your own race. Another powerful benefit of silence is that it teaches you consistency. When nobody is watching, consistency becomes a choice, not a performance. You don't show up to be seen. You show up because it matters. And habits built in private are the ones that sustain you in public. What you practice when no one is looking determines how you perform when everyone is. Silence also helps you deal with fear in a healthier way. When you announce your plans, fear becomes louder because failure becomes public. But when you move in silence, fear stays manageable. You're not afraid of disappointing people. You're only focused on improving yourself. That freedom allows you to take risks, try again, and keep moving forward without being paralyzed by what others might think. There is also strength in letting people underestimate you. When expectations are low, pressure is low. And when pressure is low, performance improves. You're free to grow at your own pace. You're free to surprise people instead of trying to impress them. Being underestimated is not an insult, it's an advantage. Silence gives you time to build substance. A lot of people chase attention without substance. They want recognition before they have results. But recognition without results doesn't last, substance does. And substance is built quietly through repetition, failure, learning, and persistence. Silence allows that process to happen without interruption. You also learn discernment when you move in silence. You become selective about who you let into your world. You stop sharing everything with everyone. You understand that access is earned, not automatic. That maturity changes how you move, how you speak, and how you trust. One day, people will notice your progress. They'll see the growth, the discipline, the confidence. And they'll ask, how did you do it? And you won't need a long explanation. The work will explain itself. The consistency will explain itself. The results will explain themselves. All you did was stay quiet, stay focused, and keep moving forward when nobody was watching. Ladies and gentlemen, let me leave you with something powerful, something that can guard your future. If you truly understand it, silence is a form of faith. When you stop announcing your moves, you start trusting the process. You stop needing reassurance from people and start relying on the work, the discipline, and the belief that what you're building will speak for itself in time. Silence is not empty. Silence is active. It is you showing up every day without needing witnesses. One of the greatest tests in life is learning how to stay committed when nobody is cheering, when there are no likes, no comments, no encouragement, no recognition. That's when character is formed. That's when you find out who you really are. Anyone can be motivated when the crowd is loud, but it takes strength to stay consistent in quiet seasons. Moving in silence forces you to develop that strength. Silence also teaches you how to handle doubt properly. Not just other people's doubt, but your own. When you're not constantly talking about your plans, you're not constantly revisiting them with fear. You're too busy doing the work. Action has a way of quieting doubt. Progress, even small progress, builds belief. And belief built through action is far stronger than belief built through words. There's also a lesson in delayed gratification that silence teaches. When you don't rush to tell people what you're doing, you're more patient with results. You understand that real success takes time. You stop chasing quick validation and start building long-term value. You trade short-term applause for lasting impact. That trade always pays off. Silence protects your peace. Not every question deserves an answer. Not every opinion deserves your attention. When you move quietly, you choose peace over proving a point. You stop arguing about your potential and start investing in it. Peace gives you clarity, and clarity leads to better decisions. Let me tell you something else that's important. Talking too much can make you emotionally dependent on feedback. You start needing people to approve, encourage, and validate every step. Silence breaks that dependency. It teaches you self-reliance. You learn how to encourage yourself, correct yourself, and push yourself. That inner leadership is what separates followers from leaders. Silence also prepares you for criticism. Because when success comes, criticism will come with it. If you can't handle being quiet now, you won't handle being talked about later. The quiet season toughens your skin. It strengthens your mindset. It teaches you not to react to every voice. That discipline becomes your shield when the spotlight shows up. Another truth is that silence allows God to surprise people through you. When nobody knows what you're working on, the outcome looks sudden to them. They call it luck. They call it overnight success. But you know it was obedience, consistency, and quiet faith over time. God does his best work in hidden places before revealing it publicly. Silence keeps you aligned with purpose instead of ego. When you stop talking, you stop performing. You're not trying to look successful. You're trying to become successful. And there is a big difference. Looking successful is temporary. Becoming successful is lasting. So if you're in a season where you feel unseen, unheard, and unnoticed, don't rush to speak. Don't rush to explain. Don't rush to prove anything. Keep working. Keep learning. Keep growing. Let silence shape you. Let discipline define you. And when the time is right, your results will introduce you in a way words never could.